My name is Blair. I'm the Community Engagement Manager for Prison Yoga Project, and we're so excited this morning to have on Will and Zach, who are the founders and program trainers. So we have a larger umbrella organization called Marley, Mutts, and then specifically today we're talking about the Pawsitive Change Program, which I'll let them explain a little bit more about these amazing programs, and I'll read some bios right now as well. So we have Zach. He founded Marley Mutts in 2009 as a nonprofit and was granted tax-exempt 501c3 status in 2010. Growing from a nonprofit about dog rescues, providing second chances and rescuing the unrescuable dogs was Pawsitive Change Prison Program and Miracle Mutts Therapy Dog Program. Sorry, that was rough for me to get out. But everyone, let's welcome Zach. Thank you so much for being here. Great. And thank you both for being with us this morning. And we have Will. Will has been with Marley Mutt since 2021 as the Pawsitive Change Program Manager. Before Marley Mutts, Will worked as a high school teacher in New Orleans and pursued a master's degree in social work. Will's dogs guided him on a path to sobriety and solidified his desire to give back through service to dogs and people. Thank you so much for being here.
Good morning.
I should have updated our bio, but it's all good.
No problem. I was also a little flustered this morning because of all the tech, but that's perfect because I'm going to lead us in a centering opportunity so we all can get on the same page and we can get the nerves and the my nerves and jitters out. And we can all come together. So I'm going to lead us in a little bit of a different centering opportunity today because it is Earth Day. We get to be in reverence, hopefully every day, to our mother, this Mother Earth, the one that has given us life. So maybe this is an opportunity for us to find a comfortable seat. You're welcome to do this standing or lying down. You're welcome to have your eyes open or your eyes closed. And maybe if your eyes are open, you can bring a soft gaze to them. Maybe you're not looking at anything in particular. And let's first just connect to the natural rhythm of our breath here. Let's do 2 more breaths like this. And the first thing that I want to call into our bodies and into our space is the indigenous people of the land that lived here before us. So I'm going to call in the Kumeyaay people who tended and still live on the land here in San Diego. And maybe if you're in your space and you know the first people that lived on the land before you and still live here now and care and tend for the land, you can speak their name into this circle right now. Taking a moment to acknowledge the Earth Keepers, the indigenous people that are still fighting for this planet, fighting for the safety of this planet, so that it can continue to offer us abundance in all ways. We can acknowledge and give reverence to those people now. And calling in the 4-leggeds, all of our friends, maybe the dogs that brought us here today to be in community. Call in the winged, the furred, the insects. Let's call in the trees, the mountains, the ocean, our rivers that provide us clean, fresh water that come from the top of these beautiful, glorious white ponchos that hang on the top of our mountains. As we hold this beauty in our heart and this room today, may we walk peacefully on this planet today and all days. Let's seal this practice in with 3 more breaths on our own time. And slowly bringing ourselves back to the room. Thank you all. And I think I'll have the first question come to you, Zach. Will you tell us the origin story of Marley Mutts?
Yeah, absolutely. We didn't give it away in my bio, so this is a good opportunity. So I was a lifelong alcoholic and drug addict, really lifelong, meaning from about 16 on till I was 28 when I got sick. I was diagnosed with end-stage liver disease and given less than 90 days to live in the beginning of 2008. I didn't have health insurance. I didn't have a willingness to live. I never lived sober, or I hadn't in a very long time. I was a 24-hour-a-day drinker and 24-hour-a-day user. So my life revolved around alcohol and drugs. Really levels of hopelessness that I didn't think could get any lower I would be greeted with seemingly every month. I would reach new depths of desperation and hopelessness and self-hatred and everything that comes with that. And it was in 2008 that I was admitted to the hospital at Bakersfield Memorial. I spent 6 weeks there, just getting sicker, became addicted to pain medicine in the hospital, Dilaudid and morphine, got sicker and sicker to the point where I was getting kicked out and sent home on hospice care to go die at home and be taken care of by my family. At that point, I was admitted. I had a very chance opportunity to be admitted to the Cedars-Sinai Comprehensive Transplant Center. I was broken out of the hospital, admitted to that program, and it saved my life. They did not admit me to the hospital. They took me off all my medications, sent me home to the care of a God of my understanding and dogs that understand me, and said, best of luck, stay near a hospital and do your best not to drink, stay optimistic, and try to survive 90 days or try to survive 6 months so that you can get your liver transplant. I was very suicidal at that time and not focused on anything but the desperation and emotional depths that I was living in, feeling terribly sorry for myself, not knowing how to live, contemplating suicide regularly, just as a way out. And it really wasn't until I started living in conjunction with my 3 rescue dogs, who I'd been working in animal welfare for about 4 years up to that point, volunteering regularly and just trying to have something redemptive about my life. I was very good with animals, good with dogs, good with a lot of it, but of course I didn't have the confidence that I could do anything in life. And I kind of gave my life to the dogs in November of 2008, and we started walking up here in the mountains. I started contemplating a God of my understanding. I started plugging myself into all things spiritual, meditation, breath work, yoga, and really defining what God means to me in conjunction with our earth, with our trees, with our animals, with our ancestors, and just working to define what God meant to me, what a power greater than myself meant. It led me into a life of service to the animals and then to people, and we've just really never looked back. It wasn't something that I planned on doing. By the time I accrued 6 months of sobriety and could get my liver transplant, I no longer needed one. I had become less sick. I was still stage 4 end stage cirrhotic, but I was not that sick. And if you graphed my wellness on a chart, I just kept getting better and better and better and better and better. Every day that I was out with my dogs in the mountains, the ammonia started to come off my brain. The ascites started to come off my stomach. I mean, I looked like a dead person. I was 140 pounds. I was totally yellow. I was 9 months pregnant. And I was just walking with these dogs in the hills and trying to really started to work on finding them homes, fostering them, writing their biographies, all of this process of living for animals that can't speak for themselves. So bringing them into my home, providing them structure, love, rules, discipline, boundaries, affection, all of those things that I needed in recovery is what my dogs needed. So we just kind of lived parallel lives where this is what I need for my rehabilitation. This is what you guys need for your rehabilitation. Let's just try to plot our ways forward. Let's just trudge forward and see where it takes us. And it took me to a place where I started to get some self-esteem. I started to have some successes in life. We started to get dogs adopted a lot. I started to be brought into schools as the recovering, the drug addict who comes to school, which I always marvel when I get to share this, because it was something I remember so much from my childhood when we first had, like recovering crackheads come talk to the kids. For those of you who were raised in the war on drugs days, it was every year. We had different people, sometimes multiple times a year. So I got to be that guy, and I really relished speaking about my recovery, bringing dogs with me into schools. And Marley's Mutts was just born that way. It was just born out of me trying to survive 6 months to get a liver transplant and take my mind off of suicide. And it all just kind of came together. It wasn't even my idea. I mean, it was my community that kept pushing me. My recovery community was keeping us basically in spay and neuter money. And I was making t-shirts with iron-on transfers from Kmart, just making t-shirts all night long to sell them to try to make funds. And that's how Marley's Mutts was born. Marley is this dog here. He was my pack general. And so the organization's named after him because there were no mutt rescues back then. There were purebred rescues. There was German Shepherd rescue, Doberman rescue, Bulldog rescue. There was nothing for the dogs that I grew up with. So hence Marley's Mutts.
It's such a powerful story, and I love it's also just like everyone's welcome. We're taking everyone.
All creeds, all breeds, baby.
I love it. And Will, will you tell us your story of how you got involved as well?
Yeah. I was, I really identified with Zach's story originally. I had kind of seen the prison program on social media, and I reached out to him because I had just recently gotten sober, and he was one of my dogs, Bernie, who helped me get sober. And he's kind of just this old hunting dog that got left in the bayou in New Orleans. And it took a lot of, patience. He really taught me to slow myself down. For so long, I'd just been kind of running through life, sprinting through and trying to stay out of my own head, using alcohol, using drugs to suppress all these feelings I had inside, and not really having a connection to any place. My life had kind of fallen apart. And him, my other two pit bulls, they helped me get sober, and seeing them, come out of the shelter, come out of these environments that are traumatic too. They come in with a lot of trauma. They don't trust. They've learned not to trust people. They've learned not to, to hide, to run. And having them just through all of that with me really inspired me to continue working with dogs. I had worked as a teacher. I was a functioning alcoholic. I taught, I drank, and it really, once COVID hit, it kind of spiraled where I could start drinking earlier and earlier every day. And finally, I hit a point that it wasn't possible for me anymore to keep living that way. It was either, change how I was living or end my life, because it was all too much. And my dogs really just stayed with me through this whole process and loved me unconditionally, provided me this love that I hadn't had in a long time, this unconditional acceptance. And once I saw the Pawsitive Change Program, I reached out to Zach and told him how much I connected with it. And he said, well, we're actually looking for someone to come in. And it was just, like the universe putting things together at the right moment for me. And I came out and jumped right in. And it's given me a purpose. I've seen the impact that Marley's Mutts has overall in animal welfare, and I've seen the impact it has on individual lives every day. This Pawsitive Change Program, bringing dogs, giving guys the unconditional love and acceptance they need to heal. and find peace in their life is something that's so impactful to me, and something I'm so grateful to be a part of.
Will you tell? Yeah, yeah, I agree. I agree. Thank you. Will you tell our audience the framework of the Pawsitive Change Program?
Sure. You want me to do that, or you want to go for it, Will?
You could start with kind of the history, what brought you to it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
great.
so the
There we go.
framework is very interesting. Our genesis, our kind of our birth story, if you will, is we had a friend who got out of prison after serving 13 years. And long story short, came up and adopted a dog I was fostering who had been shot. And that dog changed his entire trajectory. He was kind of a typical child of incarceration, been in the YA, Youth Authority, juvenile justice, gang member, gang enhancements, weapons crime, all these different things. Your kind of typical story. And he was one of those gentlemen that was destined to go back to prison as a kind of 75% recidivism statistic. And got a dog. It really changed everything about his life. He was able to bring his testimony publicly. We went to different places, institutions and homeless centers and meetings, and we shared, and it really helped him embrace society. He felt rejected by society. He felt difficult to communicate, but if you have that dog with him, it really, you have a common denominator. You have something that someone can relate over. And I just watched this person who almost seemed feral in the beginning, couldn't talk, couldn't make eye contact. I saw him blossom into an incredible young man with tremendous amounts of potential who ended up working for us, ended up now having his own rescue. And so it's just a beautiful story that of incarcerated man meets incarcerated dog. And they off to their road of happy destiny. So that was the catalyst to really put the pedal to the to get into the prison system. We've been trying to program into the county jail. We just being with resistance. So we tried for almost 5 years to get into prison. And we were admitted in 2016 at California City Correctional Facility. And we've been at that facility ever since. Soon thereafter, we added programs in North Kern State Prison, Wasco State Prison, Corcoran. We have a program now at Tehachapi. We have the only juvenile girls program where rescue dogs live in prison with incarcerated repeat offender girls. And we're just really trying to, what we've stumbled upon and what we've created is something that has the ability to radically alter the futures of incarcerated people and pets. We have an epidemic of euthanasia occurring right now. Also catalyzed by COVID, we reached no kill, meaning below 10% euthanasia. Right now, we're up at almost 90% euthanasia in our shelters for pit bulls and large breed dogs. So we're in the middle of an extermination. And what Pawsitive Change can do and has done is it takes dogs that are more challenging to find homes for, pit bulls, huskies, large dogs, excitable breeds, and gives them the structure, the understanding of connection, rules, boundaries, limitations, the structure of training and connection that they need to succeed. And it's really been, we've graduated something like 800 men and about 500 dogs. Of those, and this is the program is 14 weeks long. We go in for 2 weeks to prepare them for the program, and then the dogs come in and live there for 3 months. So the dogs live in the facility, in the pod. We train on the yard. We train in the pod. We're the only prison program that takes place in the pod and on the yard. So we become part of the lifeblood of the institution. We become part of one of the only positive variables that is injected into that institution to kind of counteract all the negativity and the inherent darkness. So the purpose of the program is to provide hope and opportunity for incarcerated people and pets. But what it ends up doing is not just finding really wonderful jobs for specifically Black and brown gang members to work in the pet industry and completely alter their lives once they're released from prison, but it also offers so much within the institution. Working outside of your race, working with our female trainers in a non kind of judgmental, hierarchical way, The institution they're communicating, so student inmates are communicating with staff in a way that hasn't occurred before. Incidents on the yard are radically lower. I mean, we're in maximum security prison, so we're operating on predominantly level 3 yards, level 4 yards as well, and then some level 2s. But it's just been remarkable. I can't say enough about how much potential these individuals have to succeed in life. What they've been through in terms of their incarceration has set them up to be remarkably resilient individuals. They naturally have a knack for dog training and behavior and becoming behaviorists because they understand so much about body language. They understand so much about energy. And really, if you've survived a long bit of incarceration, you have to become a hustler to one degree or another. And many guys were hustlers on the street, just hustling to survive. And that hustler spirit is also the entrepreneurial spirit. They are virtually the same thing. So it's all about kind of redirecting that hustler spirit into an entrepreneurial format whereby they understand that if we plug ourselves into this program, we're off to the races, onwards and upwards. We can achieve tremendous heights of success in the real world for our families, break the cycles of incarceration that our kids may be subject to, and really kind of ascend socially as well. And the program really provides a way for people to understand the value, the just inherent value of these individuals. We tend to give them no credit for anything. They're simply like poor incarcerated individuals who have committed crimes and deserve to be kept in warehouses far away from us because they're dangerous. We don't take any time to focus on the upside of what they've been through in life, the upside of who they are. And in doing that, we've completely ignored millions of Americans' potential. So we feel really lucky because we get to believe in these guys, just like you do. We get to go in there and actually understand who they are. So there's no judgment coming from us. And because of that, we're very much accepted. The only judgment that's coming across is that we hereby commit to love you, to accept you, and to work with you to help make your life better. And when you present yourself as that, magical things happen. And the guys like Will's really helped us to put an onus on the emotional aspect of the program, and how what we're really bringing in is something that I'm sure the Prison Yoga Project brings in, which is emotional awareness, which is tapping into what's actually happening in here, instead of all of the natural reaction, which is just fight. Every reaction to everything is react, fight, not process, not pause, not breathe, not separate reality from unreality. So it's tremendously fulfilling what we get to do, and the shifts that we get to see in individuals. And once you believe in someone who's never been believed in, holy shit, is it special, because you watch the gears turning in their own heads, and then you see them become more suitable for life on the outside, and in the process, they've really shown the world what they're capable of. So I think culturally, socioculturally, watching our social media channels has really helped people get it. They kind of understand. They go, okay, I've judged these people, and here they are giving back. They're providing a new life, really giving of themselves 13 hours a day in prison for 3 months to alter the life path of these dogs and indeed themselves. And so there's a lot of acceptance that's associated with the program that we've seen. We live in a red county that is typically not so much for kind of inmate rights or prison reform, and I think we've been able to introduce a pretty serious mental shift, if not like spiritual shift, towards acceptance and really empathy. I think folks are so quick to judge the prison population as this, that, or the other, in many cases, so that we can co-sign our completely flawed rationale regarding inmates. We have this, our whole culture is stuck on this very terrible prejudice regarding the incarcerated and formerly incarcerated. I mean, it's just awful. And the way we allow ourselves to keep that prejudice is perpetuating these really ludicrous generalizations. So what we're trying to do is get in there and show the world how incredible these men, women, and children are, and to really get an idea of what's possible when you believe in them and give them a pathway up and out.
I just feel really speechless this morning
Mhm.
because of all of the opportunities and the framework and the love that you've provided for so many hundreds of people and animals, right? And yes, definitely, like that's one of the things that Prison Yoga Project offers, is this emotional regulation and the tools to do that. And what's really beautiful is that what I hear is, when the incarcerated men or young women are matched with a dog, like that's also someone that they can co-regulate with.
Mhm.
And so
Mhm.
it's like, especially this being of unconditional love. A personal story of mine, I've never had a big dog, but my partner has a golden retriever, that we share time with his ex-partner. Yeah. And I now I just pull her on top of my whole body like a weighted blanket, and we can just co-regulate together, and it
Yeah,
just brought like a new level of joy in my life. um,
yeah.
and just kind of like washes away irritation.
Mhm.
It's been
You just hit on the number one spiritual slash emotional component of our program. It's the number one thing we talk about. Is it's literally the thing that we constantly hammer in that program is that you are this. So you're dealing with shelter animals. These are incarcerated animals who are traumatized. They have been through a lot. And what they need is connection. What they need is strength. What they need is someone to hold space for them. So they need someone to hold space, connect, be an open vessel, right? How am I allowed to curse on this? I think I've already cursed, but how the fuck are you supposed to hold space for a spiritually wounded animal if all you're thinking about is being fiercely angry with someone on the yard or your old lady or your kids or a CEO or how unjust the world is or blah, 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 blah. And
Exactly.
their job in our program is to take their energy, what they're experiencing here, and channel positivity through that leash, that umbilical cord, that is connecting man and mutt. So they're responsible for what they're feeding down that leash. So if they choose to hold on to that anger, that frustration, that emotional imbalance, they're going to channel that through the leash and into the dog. And they don't want that. And they're very hyper aware of their responsibilities with these dogs, that the dogs rely on them. So that's when we talk about passing the leash to somebody else and taking a breath and centering yourself, setting your intention, understanding what am I really feeling? What am I honestly feeling? What am I going through? So that you can really move on instead of just holding on to the natural loop that has really set you back for your whole life, which is, reacting with anger, reacting with frustration, etc. But, projecting outwards instead of looking inwards. So
Mhm.
yeah, honestly, if we could do yoga in the class prior to getting going, it would
It'd
radically
be
alter the.
perfect.
Yeah,
It would be perfect.
yeah.
I am not a system administrator, but like let's make that happen, right?
Totally.
Yeah, let's do that.
And I think, to Zach's point, a huge part of what we talk about is the idea that in our society, in our culture, men are taught that aggression and anger are the only acceptable forms of expressing emotion. They're the only acceptable masculine forms of emotion. And what we talk about is getting in touch with that. What are you actually feeling? What is this anger? This anger that you're showing is something else you're feeling, but you only know how to be angry at something or how to be aggressive towards something. So a huge part is, like Zach said, taking a breath, seeing how am I actually feeling. It's okay to feel sad. Sadness is a part of our life. It's not a masculine or feminine emotion. It's a human emotion. And being okay with that and understanding, hey, today might not be my day. I might need to hand this dog off for a little bit because this dog's taking on my energy. If I'm frustrated, if I'm, not able to regulate, this dog's feeling that and acting a certain way because of that. And our guys really get in touch with that. A huge guy I think of is one of our guys at North Kern, who, when he first came into the program, and Zach, you'll probably know what I'm talking about, was way up here. Like his energy was all over the place, off the walls. And we brought in a blind dog, who he was paired with. And he had to bring himself so down to kind of guide this dog and his energy, because this dog had high energy too. So when they combined, he slowed down so much. And in 5 months, the change I've seen in him just emotionally, able to take a breath and step back. And now we have been bringing in dogs who are shut down and need patience and calm and putting them with him. And he's able to regulate himself and do that. And he's talked a lot about, his kids, his son, and bringing this, once he's out of prison, this newfound emotional intelligence home with him and understanding boundaries, but also how his emotions are impacting those around him. So I think we're just scratching the surface of the changes dogs are able to bring to guys who are in the most hyper masculine, angry, aggressive place we could possibly imagine.
Yeah, yeah, very well said.
Sorry, what'd you say, Zach?
Oh, I just said that was very well said. We tend to, a lot of folks think dog programs, specifically our program, they default to, oh, it's just a puppy program where puppies are living in prison for inmates to play with. And it's so far, it's far deeper than that. And to spin off of what Will was talking about, we follow up on it with a lot of homework. So there's a lot of, they have to get out of their comfort zone, So one of the things we talk about is getting out of your comfort zone. First off is just working outside of your race. California prisons are radically segregated. So, segregated like most people don't believe us when we talk about how segregated prisons are in California. They don't understand. They're like, yeah, right. What do you mean the whites can't sit with blacks? What do you mean they can't eat together? They can't trade. What do you mean? Well, that's what I mean. It's rigidly segregated. So to be on a level 3, level 4 yard with radical segregation and to see our program really be the difference on providing integration is really powerful for one, because all of these guys just about are getting out of prison. And if you're not working outside of your race, you're just reinforcing this limit on yourself. So it's there's just so many reasons why it's a magical program. And I desperately wish we could provide it to more students, because the animal welfare problem is just getting worse. We need this program. The prison, in terms of providing opportunities to the incarcerated, that still hasn't taken place. We don't have an economy that's offering itself to the formerly incarcerated. When they get out of prison, it's very, very difficult to get a job. And with our program, we've provided this bridge between the $100 billion pet industry and the formerly incarcerated. And there's acceptance that our program has provided. There's like a deeper understanding of who they are. And we are having all these tremendous outcomes where guys and gals' lives are completely changed from that point on. And then all of their family from that point on, they go from being, formerly incarcerated men with no path forward to not only to being taxpayers, small business owners, and then really giving back to the community in a positive way by teaching folks how to improve their relationship with their dog. It's just such a thoroughly benevolent setup at every aspect of it. So yeah, our real hope for the future is that, first of all, is pairing up. Like, for you to do this for us and to bring us in and help us speak to your audience, it's really wonderful. I think that what's really cool about the prison reform space is that we have each other's back. It's kind of weird. It's a little bit different than rescue. Rescues can be oddly competitive. We get a lot of kind of I don't know, we get a lot of weird feedback. But in the prison space, we all share each other's stuff because we're like, yeah, there's not that many of us. So we really are rooting each other on. So it's thank you for having us here and to kind of build the community, and it feels good.
Thank you. And thank you for bringing that up too. I feel like that's kind of the space that we continue to cultivate as well. And that's what I've, hosting the show and bringing in other people that are in the transformative justice space. It does feel like family. It's like, yeah, like it is kind of a niche program that we're offering, and then
Yeah.
it's like, all right, so as we continue to build together, then it's more voices for the people that are incarcerated, right? And different ways that we can start to shift this system, because I think we all are abolitionists at heart, and it's like, okay,
Yeah.
we can't just hate the system. There are people that are in the system that need support, right? And so there are other ways that we can transform these ways of being.
Yeah, we're up against a cultural the deck is stacked societally, so we have programs on TV, we have all of this information being fed to our society telling us to be afraid of the incarcerated, to be afraid of them while they're incarcerated, to be even more afraid of them when they're out, to and to really judge them across the board. Like, seldom in modern history can you ever point to a section of the American population that is completely ostracized and disenfranchised, and like our entire society co-signs that. It's like if you just pulled a random person off the side of the street and asked them, what do you feel about incarcerated folks, incarcerated gang members who served 25 years in prison? They'd be like, I hate them. Keep them away from me. They deserve what they get. With no real understanding or empathy for the individual. Okay, well, where are a lot of these individuals coming from? What is their past like? What is their own genesis? How did they get here? And more than anything, I think a big, I talked about this with Will, and he's already a very empathetic, understanding person. And as he has a baby, it's going to get even that your heart like triples in size and you become even more sensitive. But I think of them all as children. I think of them all as children, not having childlike states of mind, although a lot of us addicts and alcoholics do have childlike states of mind. I mean, we arrest our development when we become kind of spiritually and physically addicted. But we just have this really unique ability to really show our society who these individuals are and show them and change the narrative. And we're doing it slowly, but I think we're doing it successfully. And we really have to call it up for what it is, because it's radical prejudice. And it's millions and millions of people. There's 2.5 million incarcerated Americans right now. 25% of the world's incarcerated are in the United States of America. 11 million children are affected by incarceration. Are we just going to keep this going without really giving light to our own behavior and our own prejudices? We don't talk about it enough. I think we tend to talk about America is a racist country. And I don't believe that. I believe, and it makes me angry when people make blanket statements like that. It's the same type of generalization that you'd say about somebody who's incarcerated. But what is, and it gets people away from what's really racist. And what's really kind of racist is how we've been allowed to wholesale judge the incarcerated population, which is, again, millions of people that we're just kind of check marking as, well, they're just terrible, keep them away from me. And that's the end of the story. And we don't want them working with us. We don't want them voting. We don't want them participating. And I don't want to hear about your social programs for them because they're bad people who committed crimes. End of story. And so we really have to change the whole discussion around who these individuals are, and also relate it to like how we are as spiritual beings in general. We are made to forgive. We are made to forgive. It's like one of the most spiritual things you can do is like process and resentment and forgive. And here we're just like bitterly clinging to this judgment of the incarcerated. No, we don't want to forgive them, because of this, that, or the other. And if we can keep shifting that needle towards forgiveness, then it'll set all of us free, in terms of our society, set us all free mentally about our prejudgments and prejudices towards the incarcerated.
And yeah, so what would happen if if the system radically shifted and that, people that had to take time to understand where they are and how they caused harm to people, right? Like when someone is incarcerated and given a sentence and they're after their sentence, like they did what we say is their part, right? Like they should be forgiven, right? All of these shoulds that don't happen, right? They walk around with scarlet letters that they were incarcerated. And it's like, okay, well, like, haven't we voted, or don't we agree? I know we don't agree, but on a system, right? That you did this crime, you have to do this many years, and then you're out, right?
Yeah.
But they don't get to be back with us. They don't get to be part of the community anymore.
Yeah, they're never restored. They're never restored to a place where you can begin the healing. And in many cases, you're kind of given a boot to a boot to the ass at $27 and said, you know, here's a train ticket towards whatever the rest of your life is. Best of luck. You know?
Yeah,
And
we'll
it's,
see. And it's the expectation that we'll see you again in a year.
yeah,
Um,
exactly.
and it's so much of this, I think Zach and I had this conversation a few days ago. Our system is set up to make people, it's not rehabilitative. When people go to prison, you're forced to be worse than you were going into prison to survive in that environment. You're taught how to be a better criminal. You're taught how to be more aggressive to survive, to thrive in this place that is scary, dangerous, overwhelming. And there needs to be more of these dog programs, yoga programs, rehabilitative programs, truly believing that people can change. Right now, our whole system is set up on the expectation that these men and women will be back. We're going to send them out, you know, and in 6 months to a year, they're going to be back. So until we have that radical shift, this cycle is just going to keep happening.
Agreed.
Will you tell us? So I know that we have a 14. You said it was a 14-week program for the. What do you call the people that are incarcerated that are training the dogs? Do they have a
Student trainers.
Student trainers. Yeah. Okay, awesome. So how long? Will you tell us about the framework for the student trainers?
Yeah, so it's a 14-week long program. We bring in basically demo dogs for the first 2 weeks. We're teaching pretty basic things. We're introducing guys to the program. In many cases, we have a lot of turnover. So we have most of our guys will re-enroll in the program afterwards. So many of them will exist in Pawsitive Change for 4 or 5 years. We've had guys in for basically the entire time we've been operating. So a typical round is 14 weeks. The dogs will go in for 3 full months to live in the pod in that facility. There are 3 trainers per dog and 2 primaries and an alternate, basically. And that way guys can still program, they can still go attend prison yoga project if they want to, and so pass the dog off to their partner so that they can go continue their programming. And we go in every week. We provide structure, instruction. Again, there's homework, there's presentation, there's speeches. There's just a lot of stuff that goes on. And there's also just a lot of casual interface and loving exchange. I mean, part of our job is to go in there and be as kind and as receptive and as loving as possible. You know, so when we enter a prison, or at least when I do it, you know, I've discovered it to be the greatest place for me, greatest opportunity for me to change my state. You know, I carry around a lot of depression and anxiety and feelings of less than-ness. And when we go into prison and have that opportunity to give back and really put my love into motion, it's really powerful. I mean, I always walk out of there feeling high, you know, feeling like the best possible internal state that I felt that entire day. I mean, it's the best. You know, being able to give back in that capacity is really transformative and really helps you feel plugged into something so much greater than yourself. So back to the format, we're training the Canine Good Citizen certification. So this is a 10-point test that basically is a therapy certification. So at the end of our course, they will be tested by a Canine Good Citizen tester, and they'll have to pass each of these 10 points. And so that's what we're training every week is different elements of that test. We're working on dog psychology. We're working on energy state of awareness, you know, sobriety, you know, emotional awareness, all of those things. And then we have graduation at the end. The dogs all get adopted to oftentimes correctional officers, oftentimes family of the incarcerated, oftentimes just the public. And families come to graduation. There's no better prison experience than a Pawsitive Change graduation. Defy graduations are pretty awesome too, but a Pawsitive Change graduation is just a thoroughly magical experience. Yeah, so that's the essential gist of it. And then we have a 2 to 4 week period of rest. We go rescue some more dogs, get them ready for the program, send them in, and then the cycle continues.
It's amazing. I'm so excited to just be in, relationship with you guys, right? To continue to watch all of this unfold, right? And hopefully one day I'll be able to see the program live as well. But will you tell us about some of these emotional aspects of the program that do make it unique?
Yeah, I think, weekly, Zach had mentioned earlier, we have homework. So weekly homeworks are asking guys to get deeper and deeper, more in touch with what they're really feeling and what the dogs are bringing out of them. And I think any of us that have had dogs, we have these experiences where emotionally dogs, if you listen to them, teach you a lot about yourself. If you lock in with them, they teach you to slow down, they teach you to live in the moment. Dogs aren't thinking about the past, dogs aren't thinking about the future, they're living in the moment and appreciating even the most difficult circumstances. And Zach can attest to this. When we bring some of these dogs in there that have been in the shelter for 6 months to a year, the dog's like, wow, this is like the greatest place ever. I have these 3 guys constantly paying attention to me. We're always out walking, jogging, like, and it gives the guys a way to find emotional peace in a place that's very difficult to attain. Um, it gives them something to love, it gives them a way to be compassionate to something. Many of these guys talk about when they went to prison, they lost that side of themselves. They weren't able to show love, they weren't able to show empathy, they weren't able to show compassion because it was all viewed as a weakness. But with dogs, you'll see guys, with these dogs coming in from the shelter, and it's these guys who have been in prison for 30 years, and outside culturally they look like the scariest guys you could ever imagine, and then they just melt. It's like a kid on Christmas morning. The dog's licking their face and they're like telling me like, oh well, she has this little scab on her side, is she okay? And like they become their babies. They give them a way to parent, to love, to, and Zach mentioned earlier, the inner child. Essentially they give them a way to get in touch with that inner child. And I talk with different guys about finding that love. How do you reparent? How do you like love this dog the way you wish you had? Boundaries. We all need boundaries. We all need love. We all need these things. And the dogs give them a way to access that.
Yeah, very well said. Another thing that I can kind of bounce off of that is the spiritual factor. When you live for only yourself and your ego and all of the treacherousness that's associated with that, it can be hard to find God. It can be hard to find the present moment. So when you are kind of forced through the program to be living for something else, to be checking out of here and into the life of a rescue animal who you are now in charge of, there's this separation, there's this light, there's this service. So you're fundamentally being of service to something other than yourself that can't be of service to itself. And there's deep spirituality in that, and there's deep separation of self, And I think that really catalyzes a spiritual awakening of sorts in a lot of guys.
Exactly. And I think of our North Kern program right now, we have 6 pit bulls and 2 huskies who were all on the euthanasia list. We're not going to make it out of the shelter. And the connection that's found between throwaway people and throwaway dogs, who these guys are able to save these dogs' lives. Changing a life, saving a life allows you to get out of your head. You're like, when we talk to them about that, it's super impactful. It's a being of service to something bigger than yourself.
And maybe one of the only opportunities where these individuals have also had a chance to come out of survival mode, right? I think, I don't remember who originally said it, right? But there's only kind of 2 ways that we can be in, and one is like in a creative state or in a survival state. And so when we step into service, we're stepping out of survival.
Mm-hmm.
And I see that
Exactly.
in your program.
I think all of these programs have one thing we haven't mentioned yet, which is community, Prison Yoga Project, providing a community where my ego is put aside. I'm part of a bigger purpose. And even in this place that is full of sadness, anger, all of these terrible emotions, I'm able to be of service to something greater than myself.
Indeed. And also there's a deep bond, like I don't mean to over focus on the racial component, but it's one of the starkest realities that you're greeted with when you go to prison is you go, oh shit, this is for real, So to then see guys, you can't really relate over a dog. You can't really raise a rescue dog from the state that they're at when they come in through the 14-week process without having a tremendous amount of like integration with your fellow trainers. You're forced into this deep process. And so, there's a lot of that's one of the most wonderful things to see is like guys' testimonials. They'll say, when I started this program, I haven't talked to a South Sider in 10 years and never thought I would. And now I consider him my brother. You're all my brothers. And there really is something about that fellowship to kind of, again, like you said, if you're part of a family, if you feel part of a family, you can check yourself out of that survival state. So many of us as kids who become grownups who didn't have strong family structures feel that chaos and that fight or flight. It's because it didn't have the fallback of the family unit of feeling supported by your family. And a lot of guys who are incarcerated feel very, very alone. So to create a little bit of fellowship, cross-racial fellowship is it really helps guys to you see them almost enjoy their incarceration for the first time ever. And then when you can start to, maybe enjoy is the wrong word, but like positively tolerate incarceration, then a lot of things start to happen. There's this whole shift towards personal wellness where they start to become more interested in programming, more interested in their future, more interested in discovering themselves, more interested in what their dreams are. A lot of these guys haven't had the audacity to dream about anything because why would you, right? So you see them start to shift into this, oh, well, shit, I'm going to start thinking about becoming this when I get out. I'm going to start thinking about becoming this when I get out. And all these doors open. I mean, we had one of our guys was incarcerated for about 20 years and wanted to become a nightclub owner when he got out and was on a bar and kind of go back to the same. And now he owns a dog training facility and has hired one of our graduates and is just doing an incredible job, So opening up these guys to different opportunities when you get out, about half of our students who have been released are active, who are employed in the pet industry, so it's a really, really big deal. I saw someone also ask a question about how many graduates. We've had something like 800. It's hard to keep track. It might be more than that. And also a lot of our guys have graduated many, many times. So there's some guys who have ascended the ranks from your kind of typical student trainer to mentor trainer and to lead trainer. So we have this kind of this opportunity for promotion in the program. And, a lot of our guys are being released from prison. A lot of guys who were looking at, your life without have been reclassified, and because of milestones in our program, because of program participation and other factors, they've been released. And it's been really special to behold, to kind of see, also to see and track and stay close to so many of our guys who are out now, to watch the acceptance and to watch them shoot for the stars and really not be regulated. All what incarceration does is impose this heavy blanket of limiting thoughts, limiting everything. You upon incarceration and probably throughout most of their lives, they are just taught to not believe in themselves. I am only this. I am nothing but this. Right? I am not accepted. I'm rejected. I'm never going to do X, Y, or Z. So to see them kind of understand their true potential and what they're capable of, and see how that kind of slingshots them into a new mind state is really special.
And also, so you guys have a 0% recidivism rate, don't you?
Yeah, recidivism is never an easy word to say.
Yep. Even when I read it and speak it all the time, doesn't.
Yeah, it's like anonymity in meetings. Someone always has a tough time saying anonymity. Yeah, so we have had one of our, we just found out recently, we did have one of our students return to prison. He had a very difficult situation that he faced where his kids were lost their lives in a car accident. And he, struggled because of that and is now back in our program at California City. So while we're not obviously, sad for his loss and for his return to prison, I feel very fortunate that he's enrolled back in our program.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah.
But, one out of 800, I still think tells about the power of the program and the container that you guys have created. Yeah, and I stand and hold with this person that's part of your community. That's really sad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another question just came in. How many prisons are we in? We are currently operational at Tehachapi CCI level 3, North Kern State Prison level 3, California City Correctional Facility level 2, Bakersfield Juvenile Justice, which is a children's prison. And then we have programs hopefully coming online at Norco, which is down in Riverside County, potentially the California Men's Colony in San Luis Obispo. And then hopefully Victorville, we'll have our first women's program at the federal prison in Victorville, the Victorville Federal Women's Prison. So those are, and we've been at Corcoran State Prison. We have the only level 4 180 program. Level 4 180 is the most secure prison format in California. And that yard in particular was the most dangerous yard. So felt very blessed to have been able to operate a program on that yard for 3.5 years. One of our graduates, Denante, has been released and is working at LA Canines in Santa Monica, and is coming up to adopt a dog next Friday. And his cellie, Brian James, will be released from prison in less than 2 months, and we can't wait to greet him when he gets out because he'll be getting involved for sure. And so yeah, we've had some programs have their funding pulled. That is very typical. We get virtually no support from the city, county, state, or correctional department. We have, for instance, in the 5 programs that we operate, we applied for funding for all of them. We only got funding for 1, and that's partial. So that's been a real struggle. Is just, I mean, it seems like everybody understands the efficacy and understands the importance, but then when it comes time to kind of show up financially, we never see the support. And that's been something that I am so frustrated with. I have hope. There are a lot of politicians and folks within CDCR that completely believe in our program. And I think working with them to help others see the light will be important. But folks, just there isn't the incentive within, I mean, the only legislation I can even think of that pushed for incentivizing prison programming was the First Step Act, that oddly enough, President Trump put through. And that was for just federal programs, with the hopes that it would affect state programming. And it kind of has. It created somewhat of a culture shift whereby institutions now know they have to put a focus on programming. They can't not anymore. There's too much blowback from the community. There's too much blowback from internally within CDCR. But it's just bizarre to me that we haven't seen the response politically that we should, considering the number of individuals that are incarcerated and the amount of money our country spends on incarceration. It's just very bizarre to me that I've written countless, I mean, again, understanding it from a political standpoint is very difficult because, I'm a lifelong Democrat. I was raised in a socialist household, essentially. And so, I wrote letter after letter after letter to the Obama administration when we were in letter after letter after letter to different members of this administration with not even a response. And so it's very difficult to, but on the local level and in terms of those within our sphere of influence, I do really feel that the tide turning and people starting to value this work and understand how critically important it is.
Yeah, and I hear that, and I feel I also helped produce a congressional campaign in Chicago, and it was a total dumpster fire, and it was it was just really frustrating,
Yeah.
over and over and over again. And I reapproached more of this work from a communal level, right? You're like, okay, like actually, like where can we as individuals have an impact in and on? But I hear and share your frustration as well. I want to ask one more question, and I do see a ton of questions coming in from our audience, so I can frame it this way. At the bottom of your Zoom bar, there's going to be a Q&A box. If you can drop your questions into that Q&A box, and what I'll do is I'll read that out loud, and we can continue the conversation. But I think and hope that your new, is it a clinical study? You guys you've been
Oh,
approved for a study, and I hope that will start to influence. Will you tell us what this approval and this study is?
yeah. Well, you want me to take this one? I have a funny take.
Yeah.
So, we've been to the White House, we've been to the Congress, we've been to the Senate, we've been to countless offices, Sacramento, et cetera, et cetera. And so what they say is, all right, we're going to get you funded, but we need data. We need qualitative and quantitative analysis of your program to show its efficacy. Go get it, and then we'll fund you to the hilt. So we get Cal State University, Los Angeles to come on board. That was 4.5 years ago. And they fell off because of lack of cooperation. We cannot get institutions to cooperate to give us access to the information we need to generate data. So now we have Princeton University, who we've also had on board for more than 4 years. And we're still coming up against roadblock after roadblock to get the information we need to get funded. So we have everyone saying, yes, we believe in you, we believe in you, we believe in you, but we're going to go ahead and need data from you in order to fund this in perpetuity, but we believe in you. And then we say, okay, well, here we have Princeton University who wants to help us generate data to do exactly what you're asking. And then we're met with roadblock after roadblock. So it is a profoundly frustrating environment to try to work in, but we have hope that we have some really wonderful folks that believe in us within CDCR that are trying to help navigate the bureaucracy in a more efficient way. So
Great.
yeah.
You guys do deserve to be completely funded, and so that you don't have to worry about money, so that you can continue just to show up and serve, right? Like
Yeah,
when
exactly.
when your time and your resources are being put to trying to find more money so that you can keep the roofs over your head, so that you can keep trying to pull more dogs in, like it doesn't get to expand your programming.
Yeah, especially when we clearly save a tremendous amount of money for the state of California. It costs $83,000 to incarcerate one person in California. For every year that one of our students doesn't go back to prison, we're saving California $83,000. So if one of our guys doesn't go back to prison for the rest of his life, we're saving $4 million for the state of California. I have a pretty solid, it's a guesstimation and an assumption, but that most of the 30 to 40 of our guys who are out right now are not going back to prison. We're saving California obnoxious amounts of so the revenue that can be spent on other things. Additionally, by saving all of the animals' lives and having those dogs not need to be warehoused for months or years and then euthanized, we take on that cost. So we're saving our local, public health services department and animal control departments money there. So, and we're creating business owners, taxpayers, again, who are feeding money into the system instead of taking it away. So the amount of revenue our program saves and kind of gives back is orders of magnitude comparatively. The ratio is probably 1,000 to 1 in terms of what would need to be spent compared to what we saved the state and the country. So, I really hope that these statistics and these data points are understood more so that we can be supported like we need to, because it's just a fact.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if one of our people doesn't return to prison, we can run our whole program at the institution for a year.
Yeah,
it costs
exactly.
less than incarcerating one person to run our entire program for 1 year.
Yeah. Think about that.
Yeah, it's so mind-boggling that it's like it's so obvious,
Mm-hmm.
right? You're like, and so I can see how it can be very, very frustrating as well, right? You're like, okay, no,
Yeah.
it's obvious that this is very successful, so support us, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, great. We've got some questions rolling in. Oh, this is beautiful. Let's start with this one. This is tough work, and I would like to know what continues to fuel you both.
You want to go first, Will?
Yeah. I think for me, it's seeing the success of the guys both inside and outside. You know, Zach mentioned Dante coming up to adopt a dog. Um, and it's just those texts with him. Like, he's just so full of life and he has found his purpose. And now he's coming up to adopt one of our dogs. And it's like, it's it's paying it forward all the time. You know, these guys come out, they support each other, they're a community. And seeing people embrace that and find a purpose. And even if they don't go into dog training, you know, we have another guy going back to school to become a social worker. So seeing them find their purpose and find their love for dogs and rescue dogs in particular, keeps driving me to want to see this grow as far as we can grow it.
Yeah. To echo that, yeah, I'm in love. Honestly, I'm in love. I love the men. I love the program, and like Will said, you know, there's like I got to take Dante to his first concert ever. He's never been to a concert. He was incarcerated at 14, tried as an adult, and he spent 18 years at level 4 Corcoran. And being a child at Corcoran State Prison and getting through all of that, and not only has he maintained his humanity and his dignity, he's a brother. I mean, they become our brothers. They really do. I love them. I love them. And we learn from them just as much, if not more, than they learn from us in many cases. I mean, like I was saying earlier, it really changes my state every time I go in there. I feel completely uplifted and like spiritually infused whenever we go in and come out. But there's just something so incredible about finding brotherhood in those spaces, because they are so dark and because it is so heavy, and to get to be a part of something as inspiring and fundamental as like success in life, like changing someone's life. People did it for me. You know, I wouldn't be here without this community. I mean, I did not recover myself. I did not rehabilitate myself. My community did. You know, the only thing I did was allow myself to be vulnerable and be emotionally honest. I just kind of came with it, and I didn't really hide. But the rest of it was all people. And so to be able to kind of give back to my community that saved me and get to see the same thing happening that happened for me and our guys. It's funny that you said this too. There's an app called Getting Out, which is the way you can communicate with incarcerated who are at facilities that have the tablets now. And I just got 2 messages, one from Melvin, one from Brian. So that's what keeps us going is like knowing that our guys are getting out, that our brothers are going to be on the street soon, and that we get to see them, and that we get to hug them, and that we get to continue to work with them, and that they get to come back into prison and work to help, you know, train within our program. And this whole each one teach one mentality is it's just the best thing in the world. And I think being a part of true sociocultural change, like there's nothing more powerful than that. You know, my grandpa was a labor organizer and a civil rights activist, and you know, the first book I had given as a child was the Communist Manifesto. And so I've always been interested in change and uplifting the downtrodden, you know, and including people of my background, which is people in recovery, alcoholics and drug addicts. And so I feel so fortunate, like so incredibly fortunate to get to do this work. I don't know what kind of person I would be if I didn't get to do this. You know, I think I would be a lot more marred by like darkness and spiritual rut. Like I'd be in a spiritual rut. What I did if I didn't have this program to kind of help me flourish and really be plugged into something so enormous. You know.
Yeah, I hear despair. Yeah, just would still be in those spaces, right? Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. I think this is a great question to follow up that. Do you rely on or encourage mentoring in the program amongst your incarcerated participants?
Sure.
Definitely.
Yeah, so we have mentors set up within the program, so you can aspire. Well, you're really promoted to mentor. So we have incarcerated mentors who act as mentors to new students. So typically these are guys who are serving life or are in for longer terms, but really it's based on your performance and your application. How well do you work outside of your race? How accepting and conductive are you with your fellow student? And then we also are their mentors. So we receive mail regularly, and we're on the Getting Out app, and we get beautifully handwritten letters all the time. So I've sponsored a lot of guys in prison. We've had different celebrities, different other folks come into the program to visit. That's something that we'd really like to add more to, though, is the mentoring aspect, and meaning bringing folks, human beings from the outside who believe in our students and their potential, and having them kind of share their belief. But yeah, I mean, part of the next step for our mentoring is having our formerly incarcerated graduates come back into prison to train. So Isaac De La Rosa, who served 26 years at a variety of different prisons, he'll be going into our program as well to give back. And what a trip that's going to be. I can't wait to do that with him.
I'm excited, and he's so excited. I think he wants so badly to give back and show other students who are still incarcerated what's possible.
Yeah, right. And just continuing to expand the community, right? You're like, okay, and you're saving money, and now you're providing jobs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
all of our
every round
trainers
we do.
Right. Sorry.
Oh, I was just saying, every round we're able to save 8 dogs who otherwise wouldn't make it out of a shelter. So that impact, it's just this continual growth. The more institutions we have, the more dogs we're saving, the more people we're impacting. There's so many benefits for both dogs and people.
And the mentor aspect is very interesting, because a lot of our trainers are mentors. So John Flores, who's been a trainer of ours for years, he's an incredible mentor to a lot of the guys in terms of providing a bridge when they get out. Alan is another one. He's another one of our trainers. So all of our trainers, Kim, Sam, just about everybody, Robert, Leah, Lisa, just about every one of our trainers exists in a mentoring capacity for one or several of our formerly incarcerated students. So Rigo Rodriguez is employed with Kim, who's one of our trainers. Sam has worked with several of our graduates. Robert has worked with graduates both of our program and of Pause for Life, another canine prison program. So, and John has helped a bunch of our guys find employment. So it's really special. And a lot of these folks we met through Cesar Malone. These are folks that we all trained with at the Dog Psychology Center. So we branched off of that community, that fellowship that was facilitated by Cesar, and then we've kind of carried it on and used his kind of theory and ideology of dog psychology to really transform prison, as we know it.
So speaking also of expanding programs, one of our participants, Doe, would love to see a Pawsitive Change program started in their home, Tucson, Arizona. What are recommended steps to becoming involved or to help facilitate? And they just send their deep bows. They also have rescued dogs, and just love what you guys are doing. So maybe this is an opportunity also to plug, how can we support you? What does expansion look like?
Yeah. I'm going to toss this to Will in a second, but shout out to Tucson. I was just there. One of my best friends is a Sal Point graduate. He passed away of a heart attack. Incredible man. So I was just out there. I spent a lot of time in Tucson doing bad things, and nearly reached my rock bottom in Tucson. In terms of adding new programs, really what we need is revenue, trainers, and cooperating animal welfare agencies. So whether that be a rescue or an animal shelter, we need a source of dogs. We need a source of trainers, but the trainers need to understand, dog psychology. There are a few trainers in Arizona that we would be interested in. Lynn Boyk is an incredible trainer. There's a few others out there, but really we have some work to do creatively in terms of our structure to try and figure out how we can logistically support programs in areas that are far away from our rescue, far away from our home base, because it's proven to be difficult, right? Because there's just a lot of variables involved in in keeping this going. You have to train people how to teach in prison. You have to train people on the curriculum, on dog psychology in general. So there's a lot to learn. So I would say, and Will probably might have a better response to this, but we need people to get involved in terms of marketing. So sharing our stuff as much as possible, emailing friends, signing up for the newsletter, sharing our social media, really opening conversations up. One thing I'm interested in doing is cultivating groups of people who are interested in getting involved and kind of presenting to them. So having folks facilitate groups of influential individuals who want to get involved, and we can come present to you on, okay, you really want to get involved, here's our program, here's how you can. But we really need to sift through folks who just kind of want to like tacitly be involved, and folks who really actually want to, have time, set many hours a week to dedicate to helping us achieve something. I don't know, perhaps Will can expand on this, but we probably need to come up with some volunteer job descriptions so that we can start plugging people into being of service to the program.
Yeah, and that's something we've been working on. We're currently working on a new program in New York at Woodbourne Correctional Facility. There we had one of our trainers who was very interested in doing the program, and everything just kind of aligned perfectly, where we got in touch with the warden really quickly, and things moved faster. Prisons can just be, and I'm sure the Prison Yoga Project can speak to this, prisons can be difficult places to get things through sometimes. There's a lot of roadblocks along the way. So like Zach had said, one of the biggest things is the time commitment. Before I started here, I did not realize how long it would take to get, basic things passed at a prison. But after that, we found a community where we're starting to grow. We're working on finding ways to scale our program, to make it possible to move further away from our rescue base.
Yeah, to build. And then we've got a question too. If someone doesn't live in the US, maybe how would you say someone that lives in Europe could support you guys?
You want to take that, Zach?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we have a decent amount of supporters in Europe because the Guardian and the Observer, led by Hilda Burke, did some really great articles. We actually had a Ukrainian paper prior to the war do a really wonderful symposium on the program, which was great. So yeah, we had a lot of folks saying, come to the Ukraine, come to Great Britain. And I think we would love to, and we will be able to, once we kind of create our own almost like Pawsitive Change College, we'll be able to expand everywhere. I mean, once we have kind of satellite operations, which just means a few trainers who can foist up the program, we can accomplish it anywhere. So I would say, in terms of support from abroad, obviously the same is true. Social media, share our stuff, donate if you can, get involved, comment. But yeah, potentially reach out to us and talk. And if you have an insight into the correctional system where you are, that would be really helpful. If you're just a person who's in, Bucharest who wants, that's going to be difficult. But if you really have inroads into the bureaucracies or the systems and how they function in that region, we'd definitely be interested in hearing from you.
I hear a positive change tour. Like who wants to go on tour? Meet all the dogs, people. Yeah, I think
that would be amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, even just bringing dogs into prison is one of the most rewarding things. We bring in the last 2 weeks to Tehachapi, we bringing in demo dogs, and so even tons of guys who aren't even in the program get to see dogs for the first time in 20, 30 years. So you got guys, again, the most intimidating looking individuals you can imagine coming up to you completely blushing and just begging you to pet your dog and going, man, I haven't seen a dog in 25 years since, man, the last time I saw a dog, he was attached to my calf. Talking about when they were, apprehended, and just to see the joy that dogs bring. And also in a therapeutic capacity to see, how immediately you can access someone emotionally when you have a dog present. It's like a child testifying in court against their abuser, right? They don't feel naturally comfortable sharing what they're feeling. But when they have a dog present, that vulnerability is accessible. So when you have a dog present in prison, even if they're not in the program, dudes are just naturally vulnerable with you. It's remarkable. They just kind of naturally feel like, okay, I can become a kid. I'm just a kid petting a dog. They like slingshot into this childlike state of just being a kid petting a dog, and just to give them that little glimpse into their own, into being childlike, is super valuable. Yeah, dogs are heart openers, Allison. Exactly.
And then I'm going to take one more question from our audience, and then we'll do some final closings and kind of sharing anything that hasn't been said. But this is an interesting question from a participant. My program in New York State is bound by strict rules relating to contact with a release program participant. Are you restricted in any way in your work to support the reentry of the participants upon release?
That's a very good question. And there are certain, what they're trying to limit is improper personal relationships or contact for a variety of reasons. One is bringing contraband in or out of the prison. The other is just having improper, intimate relationships with formerly incarcerated. When it comes to providing them with direction on employment trajectory and fellowship, we're very encouraged to maintain contact. And some of the rules here in California have shifted a little bit, whereas before, for instance, a formerly incarcerated individual who served his time at North Kern State Prison would not be allowed back into that facility to serve. Now that's being changed. So we can have formerly incarcerated students return to their institutions to give back. So really, there are rules, that I understand regarding, in prison specifically, contact. You're not supposed to have what's called familiar contact. You're not supposed to shake hands. You're not supposed to hug. It's hard for me. I don't, how do I say this diplomatically? I don't adhere to those rules. I'm just going to be honest. It is, a lot of these guys are probably in prison because metaphorically or literally they didn't receive enough hugs. So I'm coming in there with the best, with fucking rainbows shooting out of my ears, trying to bring in the best possible energy I can, even if I'm not feeling it. And that's where the benefit is for me, is because it gives me really this kind of excuse to just be as joyful and as positive, almost obnoxiously so. Like, some of our trainers, I'm sure Will, the first time he saw me in there, was like, what is this dude doing?
Zach is a high fiver. He likes to high five everybody there.
Yeah. Well, I got to go and check in and how you doing? What's going on? I got to connect and relate and make people feel
joy. It's bringing an energy to a place, that joyful energy.
Yeah.
It's fun to see.
Yeah. So it's really, really, really rewarding. And it's really special. It's a wonderful opportunity to get to do something. I mean, you get to leave such a positive impact in a place that's so inherently dark. And like, where else do you really get to do that? Where else do you really have an opportunity to be that impactful on so many people, like, immediately?
I think
there was somebody yesterday. Go ahead.
Keep going.
Well, there's, as we were leaving the pod yesterday, just to see these, I have a tendency, walking out of the prison with me can take a long time, especially when you have dogs, because I'm stopping constantly to say hi to different people. And just having guys like, they see you and they're like awestruck, and they sometimes don't know what to say. Like, there's a pit bull right there. I want to say hi. I want to love him. Sir, can I touch your dog? Can I touch your dog? I haven't seen a dog in 25 years. And then to get to give that to them and get to shake their hand and say, what's your name? How are you? No problem, my brother. These are exchanges they don't get. They get, get into your cell, get out of your cell, do this, do that. Everything's an instruction. Everything is making them feel less than, below. And so just to provide some, hey, you are equal with me. I respect you. I appreciate you. I love you is really special.
Yeah, I think it's and a big part of what I see with our whole team that goes in is people who are very authentic to themselves. Dogs see through things. So Zach is that high energy. He's excitement. He's coming in with high fives, like checking in on everybody. And all of us have these different personalities that balance each other out in different ways. And I think it's one beautiful part is seeing how our team is so unique and different in a lot of ways, but how we show our authenticity that way.
Yeah, totally. Definitely agree.
Thank you so much. We're at time. Thank you so much for being here with us this morning. I know someone was asking, so we'll have a recording of this up on our community website as well. So anyone that wasn't able to be here, or this is another opportunity for you to share the work that they're doing here with Pawsitive Change Program and Marley Mutts. But I both wanted to give you individually an opportunity to say anything that hasn't been said or to share anything with our audience here today as we close.
I can jump in. I just want to say thank you so much for having us. Thank you for the work you're doing. I'm a huge fan of the Yoga Prison Project. I think any of these programs are essential. And like Zach said, you know, all of these prison programs, all these different prison programs, we all believe in each other. We see the impact. So keep up the great work.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see why you're leading it, Blair. You have a very infectious kind of, I was talking about rainbows coming out of my ears when I walk into prison, but you very much have a light coming off of you that's tremendous. And yeah, just thank you guys for hearing us. I think a big part of we get locked into our own little bubble of sometimes frustration, sometimes aggravation at not being seen, heard, or understood in terms of what we can accomplish. So to get to convene here like we are and to strengthen our own relationships and to kind of believe in one another here and get to share is really special.
That makes me that I feel inspired because I do get to invite all of these amazing programs onto this show that we do, and we get to educate each other and cheer each other on. But now I'm kind of feeling like maybe I want us to host like a once a month thing where everyone that does a prison program comes in and maybe we have a guest speaker, or just I love building community. I love being in community. Thank you both for your kind words and also, you know, seeing me and who I am and what I offer. But it brings me so much joy of these connections, right? And just connecting people. That's where I feel like I'm here to serve. So thank you both so much for being here and for the work that you offer to the world. So thank you.
Yeah, you're very
Thank you,
welcome.
Blair.
Thank you, everybody. Appreciate y'all.